ago, I think he used the word weird, and this is a bit weird. We're learning where to go, aren't we? Where to be, where to sit, trying to find out, well, where is the best place for me to sit in, well, I was going to call them pews, but they're not even that. Right there. Right there in front of the screen that works. I thought a minute ago I was going to have to ask all of you just to turn around because that one was working, but these two were off. So we'll see what works. But we do thank you for being here and participating in our Bible classes. It was weird the first, I think, or the second week of March when we started this series, I believe was the first time we met in this room facing this way because the seats had been turned the other way. So that was kind of weird. And this is kind of weird. When I left this morning, I thought, well, where do I stand tonight? Do I go up here? Do I get over here by us? Well, this screen wasn't working this morning, so maybe this wouldn't have been the first choice. But what would be the best? I'll make a suggestion. What would be best is if all of you were in one group of chairs, and I don't care which group it is. I'm not asking you to move tonight. I know we're feeling our way through where to be, what's comfortable, but for an auditorium class, I'll just tell you, this doesn't work. Unless we had 499 people in here, this doesn't work. Because if someone back here wants to make a comment, and I encourage comments, there's a good likelihood that I won't even hear it. Unless it's Patrick Jones. Now, I can hear Patrick. But it's hard to have a discussion if people can't be heard. And in a room this size, spread out the way it is, it's hard to be heard. Now, there are ways to deal with that. I'm going to deal with it right now by getting closer to you since all of you are afraid of me. See, I made a little bit of progress. And I know this is about like, an auditorium class is about like this. Isn't there a song about, in a verse in the Bible about trees being planted by the waters? They shall not be moved. It's hard to get people to move. I realize that. And I know none of these are assigned seats. None of these are yours yet. Now, there may be a time soon where you'll leave a sweater or a notebook or something and you'll say, that's my seat. Well, okay, but that's not happened yet because it's all new to us. So I would just encourage you, if you are teaching this class, to think about that, and because there will be various ones doing that. If you are attending the class, I would just suggest that we do something to make this work a little better for the whole class.
And do you suggest we all be right in front of you, all of us in this area?
Well, I think closer to the front, and even if it was not just this section, if it was the front several rows of this one, would be better, just so that you're close enough. But
Dan, are you trying to say you want us to move?
I'm not asking you to move tonight, not at all. And this is the last night of this series, so it's really a moot point for me right now. But just as a suggestion going forward, I would suggest we default to the front half of the auditorium at least, and pick a side, and maybe nature will take its course. But I realize there are reasons why you might choose something else. I'll confess, most of my life I've been a back row or second to back row person until I married, well, I say most of my life. I've been married to Barbara most of my life now. But her folks were third row people. So I ended up being about third or fourth row people for most of that time. Well, enough of that. I thank Randall for his comments last week, and I am thankful that we were able to work together in this class, teaching this for this quarter. It has been a good study for me to look at the people we've been studying and consider the characteristics that contributed to their devoting much of their lifetimes to service in various ways. As we discussed early in the quarter, I believe Noah would probably take the prize of the people we studied for having the longest lifetime of service because he had the longest lifetime. I suspect Jesus, from a physical life on the earth standpoint, as a human, would have the shortest. But whatever it is, if we devote the rest of our lives to serving the kingdom, to serving the Lord, that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? Whenever we start that walk, if we can try to devote the rest of our lives to that. So we've talked about, let me make sure I don't leave something out I wanted to mention. In this series of lessons, we've reviewed the lives of several people from Scripture that demonstrated lifetimes of service. Specifically, we looked at Noah, Abraham, Moses, Ruth, Jeremiah, Daniel, Jesus, John, and Paul. I talked too fast, didn't I? See, I had that timed out and I just messed it up. In this lesson, we want to address the challenge for us. It's kind of like what we have been discussing so far is the what. And now I would guess we could say, well, this is the so what. What difference does it make? What should I do with my life based on what I have learned from the lives of the people we have studied? What difference does it make to me? The so what? What can I do? So I would suggest the cloud is for this reason. From Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 to 4. Therefore we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him who endured such hostility from sinners against himself, lest you become weary and discouraged in your souls. You have not yet resisted to bloodshed, striving against sin. And Justin did a wonderful job this morning of reminding us of what Jesus suffered, so that we can remember that more vividly when we partake of the Lord's Supper. I haven't resisted sin to that extent, and I suspect you have not either. But we do get tired. We do have temptations to maybe slack off or maybe give up or throw in the towel. The challenge for us is to not do that. The challenge is to keep on going, to endure. And when we look at the people like we have studied in this quarter, and there are many more we could study, that should encourage us to incorporate their characteristics that motivated them to living a lifetime of service into our own lives, so that we do that, so that we can stay the course, so that we don't give up. We can look at such people and realize that encourages me, that can help me to take another step forward. So who is in that cloud? We've looked at a few. Man, there are a bunch more. A good summary could be found in Hebrews chapter 11, couldn't it? And you'll see them scroll up on the screen. I'm not going to read all of them, and some of them are the names we have studied. But that chapter has many, many more. And then as you get to the end, in just a moment, you'll see many more unnamed. The last several verses in Hebrews chapter 11 don't mention names of people, but things that many, many people experienced, yet they stayed faithful. They remained faithful. Some were dealing with fire, some were dealing with lions, and so forth. So they might not be named, but if you're a student of the Bible, you can figure out most of who they're talking about. But many faced many, many hardships, but they continued faithful. They waited for the promise. They did not give up. So the challenge for us, I've got 5 points, and the first 3 right here real fast, all right? The first 3 things, I think, or 3 of the first things maybe is a better way to say it, that would be helpful for us, helpful for me individually, and for each of us, I suspect, is we need to develop a desire to serve. An awful lot of people don't care. An awful lot of people in the church don't care. It's somebody else's job. Let someone else do it. I don't know if this is true, but I've heard this statistic used in various situations that says, well, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. I'm not saying that applies to here, but I've heard that in about any setting, whether it was school or some kind of public community group or whatever. A few people in almost any group do an awful lot of work, and a lot of people are happy to let them do it because they may not have yet developed the desire to serve. I would hope that we develop the desire to serve. If we don't do that, the rest of it is not going to happen. We have to want to. I've used this illustration so many times, you probably have heard it so many times and you're tired of it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I am sure glad when we were training our girls when they were little to brush their teeth. You know, for a while, they did it because we made them. I am sure glad that we didn't have to keep doing that. They got to the point where they wanted to do that. They had created that desire to keep their teeth. I've had a dentist ask me before, how many teeth do you, or I think I asked, how often should I floss? He said, it depends on how many teeth you want to keep for the rest of your life. Well, there's an interesting thing. What do I want? If we're talking about developing a lifetime of service, we need to have a desire to do that. Because if we don't have the desire, we probably will not do it. Secondly, we need to cultivate a motivation to serve. Just having a desire to is not enough. I want to do a lot of things. Do you? There are probably a lot of things. I'd like to do that. I have a desire, but unless I'm motivated to actually pursue it, it probably won't happen. I'd like to do something with the fence in the back of our house. I have kind of had that desire for a few years. Barbara's had that desire a little longer than that. Finally, this year, I got motivated to take a few of the rotting planks off, and let's just see whether we like it that way, or whether we want to put the fence back, or just take it all down. I don't know. There's a desire. There is a little bit of motivation, but honestly, not much has happened yet, because, number 3, we don't have a commitment to that project yet. Third point, if we have a desire, and if we are motivated to do something, then we need to go the step further and commit to it. Actually commit to the project, whatever that project might be, whether it's the fence or whether it's serving the Lord in various ways. I suggest that no matter what else we say about enduring means little if we don't master these 3. We need to want to, have a desire. We need to be motivated to really do it and then commit ourselves to the work. Well, that sounds a little bit like rise up and build, doesn't it? Nehemiah. Those folks had a mind to work. That's what we're talking about here. So let me give you an example of something in my early life. That's not me, but it's a picture from the internet that helps make this point. That kind of wraps up these 3 things. I was in Boy Scouts, very involved with Boy Scouts. Loved camping out, loved it then more than I do now, but I loved it. And it was a pretty good-sized troop of boys. My father oftentimes was one of the, what do you call it, not necessarily chaperones, but he would go, he was not the scoutmaster, but he would go oftentimes on these outings. And there was one particular time I remember when I was relatively new to this. And you see that guy's washing dishes in a campsite? The dishes needed to be washed before something else was done, whatever the next activity was. I have no recollection of what else we were going to do, but I just remember an incident when the scoutmaster was trying to chastise and scold and get people to come and get the dishes done at that campsite so we could go do something else. My guess is we were all just kind of wanting to play and whatever. My dad had had enough. He didn't suffer a fool gladly, that expression. He went over and did the dishes. He said, if the job needs to be done, just boys get in there and do it. And he did it. That made an impact on me. Now, lest you think that I'm trying to say that I do all the dishes at home, Barbara will readily tell you that I don't. All right? I do sometimes. And I do some of them, but she does the lion's share of it. But I learned a lesson that day. If something needs done, you could waste a lot of time just waiting for somebody else to do it. Just get in there and do it. Does that make sense? My dad taught me a lesson without opening a school book that day, just by observation. He was tired of messing with the delays and the excuses. He'd just do it. And I think several of us jumped in and helped what little help young fellows could do at that point in our lives. So, fourth step then. Yes?
My James taught me a lesson, a visual lesson. He said that when he interviewed people, he put a piece of paper on the floor. And he watched to see who would take the initiative to pick up that piece of paper on the floor. And people who walked right by it, he didn't give them a second thought.
Yeah, yep. A lot of little tricks like that that can help you learn something about somebody, kind of inconspicuously. All right. Fourth, if you have a desire, if you're motivated to do something, if you have a commitment to do something, maybe the next question is, well, what do I do? What do I do? Have you ever been there? Have you ever wanted to do something, wanted to contribute, wanted to serve, but you don't know what it is you can do? Maybe it's because you're unfamiliar with the tasks at hand. Maybe it's because you're unfamiliar with what skills or aptitudes you have. You want to do something, but you're just waiting to be told what to do, to be nudged to do something. Have you ever had to be nudged? Yeah, be honest. When you were little, you had to be nudged a lot, didn't you? Brushing teeth would be an example of that, wouldn't it? But sometimes we need a little push. Would you agree with that? Sometimes we need a little bit of a pull. Sometimes we need to try something to see if we have an aptitude for it. And we might realize, I kind of think I could do that. And before that, I never would have thought I could do that. Have you been there? Have you ever tried something and realized, well, I'm kind of glad I tried that because I learned I like doing it, or I have some skills in that area? Well, let me ask another way. Have you ever tried to do something that you had not done before and failed miserably and decided, whoa, maybe that's not my area of expertise? Song leading would fall into that area. I've tried it. You don't want me to try it again? All right? Well, put a disaster area or one of those orange signs says caution. It's not a pretty sight. But I guess what I would suggest is that we need to be open to explore areas where we can serve. We must not have the attitude that I have never done this before, therefore I can't. That's foolish thinking. If you have never done it before, how do you know whether you can or not? Try it. Try an area of service. Be open to explore opportunities. You might find out you really like doing that, whatever it might be. So don't hide your talents. Like Jesus talked about that guy in Matthew 25, the one talent guy. He went and hid his talent. You remember the lesson? He wasn't rewarded, correct? The others were. They used their talents, but that one talent guy, not so much. So we should seek to discover our talents. We should seek to develop and use our talents. I remember in one of our college meetings where I worked at a community college, and frequently the universities, especially one nearby, did a lot of recruiting of students on our campus. And so I remember one particular session, and it helped all of us old geezers at the school put a little bit different perspective on the young kids. I can call them kids. Is that okay, David and Emily? Can I call? I mean, y'all are graduated now, so now you're almost old geezers, but you're closer to the young kids, okay? Do you know what they said at that meeting the most common college major is for incoming freshmen? Undecided. Undecided. Exactly. Undecided. You know what's neat about college? You can try different things and find out what really you're interested in, what you have some skills for. I taught accounting. One of the history teachers at my school, one of the math teachers at my school, and a few other people at my school, other teachers, said, I took accounting. I thought I was going to do that. And I decided after that first class, I was never going to do that again. It was not their cup of tea, but they learned that by trying something that they had not done before. I would not want to teach some of the classes chemistry. You know, some people eat that up, but put me in that, but how would I know if I didn't try it? So, can this apply to our service for the Lord? Sure. If you have a desire to serve and you don't know what needs to be done, just hang on until the end of the lesson, all right? We'll get there with some suggestions. There is work to do. Is that true, Randall? Is there work to do? There is work to do. There are times when people need others to do some work, and boy, they just love it if somebody say, I need something to do, just give me some direction. Would you like that? All right. We need to be ready to explore and not just say, well, I can't do that, if you haven't tried it. Now, granted, there will be things you try you may not be able to do. That's all right. You learn from the process. So, the next slide reminds us of differing abilities or gifts. And other places in Scripture teach the same thing. I think 1 Corinthians 12, if I'm not mistaken, but Romans 12, 4 through 8. For as we have many members in one body, but all the members do not have the same function, so we, being many, are one body in Christ, and individually members of one another. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, let us use them. If prophecy, let us prophesy in proportion to our faith. Or ministry, let us use it in our ministering. He who teaches, in teaching. He who exhorts, in exhortation. He who gives, with liberality. He who leads, with diligence. He who shows mercy, with cheerfulness. There are lots of things that need to be done, lots of areas of service that need to be carried out. We all don't need to do the same thing. That would be counterproductive. But we all have a work to do, and we can all be involved. Dear lady, I'm ready for this slide. A dear lady that we used to know is now deceased. When we would cover some things in class session, she would often say after class. She would hardly ever say anything in class. But after class, she'd give me an earful. Good stuff, good stuff. And she says, I always thought you should just bloom where you're planted. That woman had a hard life. But she was not one to wait for things to get better for her to make a contribution to the work of the Lord. She said, I want to bloom where I'm planted. If that's here, I'm going to serve the Lord here. If that's over there, I'm going to serve the Lord there. Wherever I am, I'm going to serve the Lord. I'm going to do it. She did. She was one of the two people I would suggest that Barbara and I met in, there were so many people, but two in particular that I have the fondest memory of. They were an inspiration and an encouragement. And I want to be like them. As a young married couple, we just looked up to those people. And that's just pretty powerful. Bloom where you're planted. So don't wait for better opportunities. Get started now. I would suggest you don't stumble around in the backyard looking for four-leaf clovers, because you might miss opportunity knocking at your front door. Be ready to serve whatever comes up. And if it works out well, develop those skills. If it doesn't work out well, try something else. Keep on trying different things. These little clip art deals are just to remind you, and I hesitate to do this, even still now, but let me check our time. Well, I guess I got a clock right there. I think I will go ahead and do it. I don't want this class to be about me, but I know myself better than most of you, all right? So let me just tell you something about me and this process. I was a terribly shy child. My first experience going away from home to a camp, like a Bible camp, lasted all of about 3 hours. I could not handle it. They finally, after me begging and pleading and crying and moaning, they called my folks and they drove the 45 minutes or an hour, whatever it was, to come get me because I was inconsolable. My dad was a teacher and a superintendent. My sisters, 2 of them, were teachers. You know one thing I said I would never do when I was going to school, that I had no interest at all in ever doing, was being a teacher. To stand up in front of some people and talk to them, not me, never going to happen. What changed? One thing that changed, I had an opportunity to get out of my shell at college, at Harding. And I really find it surprising that I tried this. But I agreed to be a narrator in a little one-act play. I was lousy at it, but I agreed to do it. The main thing they were critical of me is they said, you need some volume. You can't speak loud enough. I'm thankful for this microphone. It helps in a room like this. I don't have a loud voice that projects. But I was surprised that I even did it. I had never had a speech class until college. I was terrified of speech class. The speech I remember giving in speech class, I had note cards, and I memorized it so that I didn't need to read the note cards. And I am glad I did, because I was so nervous. I could feel my face getting red. My glasses steamed up. I couldn't read anything in front of me. But I delivered that speech. I knuckled my way through it. And the teacher told me this afterwards in one of the constructive comments. He said, one thing you have to do is relax a little bit. You look like you're driving a race car up the podium with a death grip. Now, I say all that just to say I've tried some things, and I ended up at that small congregation in Illinois terrified about the idea of teaching a Bible class. But it was a small congregation, and one of the fellows just said, here's the book. You're going to teach next quarter. So I did, because of my dad's dishwasher's experience. You remember? Somebody needs to do it, so let's jump in and do it. And I was nervous as could be. I ended up having an opportunity to interview for a part-time teaching job at the local community college. And had it not been for some of that exposure, I would not have even had the nerve to do it. But an encouraging, supportive wife helped me, because she was a teacher. She loved teaching. She said, go try it. I tried it. Now, I'll admit, I interviewed on Thursday. They gave me the books on Friday after a class where I went and meet the teacher that was leaving. She got another job somewhere else, and I had a class on Monday. I was really nervous on Monday. A buddy of mine was in a similar situation and said his first time to go in a class like that, a class of college students, to teach, he said, I just had while he was waiting in the hallway, he said, I had the overwhelming urge to run to the bathroom and throw up. And I kind of felt that. I could identify with that. But I did that part-time job and thought, I kind of like this. It took a while, but I kind of like that. Ended up making a career, retiring from that. And, I know I'm not the best teacher in the world, but I can stand up here without knees shaking so much, and my face doesn't get as red as it used to. And that's just all because I tried something. There are so many things that you can do that you might not know that you can do. Now, I've tried things that didn't work out so well. I've quit things. That happens. But if you don't try it, you won't know whether you can do it or not. So give it a shot. I've learned a few things. Teaching Bible classes, fill-in preaching, the new career I mentioned. I'll tell you where I learned a lot, helping aging parents and Barbara's aging parents. You're going to get me crying now, or I'm going to get me crying. But I can remember my dad in the early stages of dementia voicing, I'm just not good for anything. The guy that taught me to wash dishes tells me I'm not good for anything, tells that he doesn't think he's good for anything. You know, I learned that my folks taught me how to care for people better than I ever thought before. You learn from what you go through. So give it a shot. I apologize. We all learn, and we all can be equipped in so many different ways if we just step out of our comfort zone and try it. Be willing to try it. Who would have thought? Many of you, I'm sure, have had very similar experiences. You've learned from things you have done that you don't want to do again, and some things you can say, well, I could fan that flame, and I could develop that skill, and I could do it. Okay, slide fifth point. The fifth point is to endure. Continue that lifetime of service. So once you're motivated, once you've developed the desire, you are motivated to do it, you committed to do it, you find some things that you can do, you're booming, all right? Now just keep on going. And it may be different seasons in your life that you have to say no to this, but now you can say yes to this. Keep on going. Don't give up. Galatians 6:9 encourages Christians to not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Luke 9, verses 57 and following, Jesus said, no one having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God. If we're going to start, but we don't stay the course, we're failing. We need to keep serving. The message Jesus is trying to point out is endurance, isn't it? To stay the course. There is a cost to discipleship. Keep on serving. How important is it to stay and to endure and to keep on going? Well, I'm not a farmer, but that guy plowing, if he lets go of the plow or turns back, he's not going to have a very good crop. You've got to stay the course. Jesus himself said in preparing his disciples in Matthew 10:22, he who endures to the end will be saved. And in Romans 2:6 and 7, God promises eternal life to those who by patient continuance in doing good seek for glory, honor, and immortality. Paul encourages Timothy in 2 Timothy 2 with many good examples. He says in verse 3, you must endure hardship as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. In verse 5, he uses the illustration of an athlete competing. In verse 6, he talks about the hard-working farmer. And he's talking about patience, hanging in there, putting up with things. Verses 11 and 12, he concludes, this is a faithful saying, for if we died with him, we shall also live with him. If we endure, we shall also reign with him. Faithful endurance is what's being encouraged. And that's the message of Hebrews, isn't it? Hebrews 2:1 cautions Christians to not drift away from the faith. Chapter 3, verse 14 encourages Christians to remain steadfast to the end. Chapter 6, verses 11 and 12 challenges Christians to not become sluggish, but imitate those who through faith and patience inherit the promises. You can kind of see what's that in music, Matt? Was that the crescendo? Is that building up to something? All right, see, I learned something in that music class, even though I can't lead singing. The Hebrew writer is building up to something, and Hebrews 11 is just like, whoo! Let's just look at example after example of this. It would be interesting to note, if you haven't yet, and we won't take time to do it now, but read Hebrews 11 on your own and count how many times faith and endurance are used in that chapter. It's a call to be faithful. It's a call to endure, to stay faithful. These heroes of faith that we read about in Hebrews 11 showed their faith by the things they endured. We might could say the things they put up with. the sufferings they endured. They proved themselves faithful by looking to something beyond themselves. If you need the Lord's Supper this evening, it's prepared down the hallway about the third classroom to the left. If it's not the third, somebody will be there to show you which one. The subject of endurance actually frames chapter 11. Chapter 10, verse 36, you have need of endurance, he says. You have need of endurance. Don't cast away your confidence, which has great reward, for you have need of endurance. And then he provides in chapter 11 those heroes of faith. And then the other bookend after chapter 11, as we already read chapter 12, the opening verses, therefore we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, since we've learned from all these people that have endured all of these things and they remain faithful. So because of all of that, so what? We ought to do the same. We should be faithful. We should endure. We should run with endurance the race that is set before us. Run with endurance the race that is set before us. I'm not going to read a story that I read recently at the men's retreat, and I have read here before in another earlier class or lesson setting, but you may recognize the picture. If you're an enthusiast of the Olympics, you may recognize this. Anybody going to tell me who that is? No? Maybe I need to read that story. No? Derek Redmond. That name ring a bell to you? Derek Redmond, all the way back to 1992. I'll tell you just a little bit about it, but I won't read the whole story. Remarkable story. The Barcelona Olympics. He had had an injury and had several surgeries from a previous attempt, and he was back here for 1992, and it was his time. He felt like it's his time, his chance to win. In the qualifying heat, he was considered a shoo-in. He was just the best of the best, apparently. And he was running on the backstretch, 175 meters, I think, left to go, and he heard a pop. And his hamstring, I guess, do they pop? I don't know. See, I'm not a student of that stuff. But anyway, he was injured, fell to the ground. He knew his dreams of Olympic glory were over. The medical people came out to lift him up, and he said, no, I'm going to finish my race. So he managed to get up and started hopping on one leg, 175 meters, and he started hopping on one leg. His father was up in the stands, and that's him pictured there holding him. He ran down, jumped over the rail, security guards chasing him, and he said, that's my son out there, and I'm going to help him. They were turning him back, and I'm going out. So he ran out, helped him steady himself, and arm in arm, they finished that race. He was the last one to finish, but he finished. 65,000 fans in the stadium, cheering, clapping, crying. What a motivating story. That's an ESPN story. You can go back and get it. You can look at the pictures. You can see the video. So I would encourage you to. Very meaningful. The Bible is full of stories like that, if you will, that motivate us to keep on going. If he could do that, that's a man who was motivated and determined, and he kept on going. So let me ask a question. What is the race set before you? Maybe it is patiently continuing a long life of service. Maybe it's remaining faithful through emotional pain or physical suffering. Maybe it's faithfully enduring persecution or alienation from the world. Christians need to remember, as was pointed out in our recent gospel meeting. I was thinking Bible Bowl. I don't know why that came to mind, but our gospel meeting. We are strangers and pilgrims on the earth. What keeps us going? The same thing I would suggest that led Peter to step out of the boat. Faith and trust in Jesus Christ. That can keep us going. Consider Paul's statement in Philippians 3:14 when he said, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. Press on. Jesus is the example and the sustaining power. He added in chapter 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. If we can keep that commitment and endure, faithfully endure, then we could say with Paul near the end of his life, and Randall quoted this last week in his lesson in 2 Timothy 4:6-8, the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Finally, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day. And not to me only. Aren't you glad he said this? But also to all who have loved his appearing. That counts us if we're in that group, doesn't it? That promise is there. So I would suggest, if you don't know what the race is before you, if you don't know how you can serve, but you have a desire to serve, that's just so small you can't see it. But go to the church website. Just type in on Google, you know who Google is, Walter Hill Church of Christ. Go to the website or go to the app. And there's a section, man, I can hardly see that myself. It says get involved. It's the fourth item across the top. And there's so much information there. Get involved. You can work with the young people. There are so many things that can be done with them, with little kids. Ooh. I like little kids, but now don't give me the book to teach the little kids. See, I've learned that. Whew, goodness. But some people are suited to that. I'm married to one that's more likely to do that. Taught third grade. That would just drive me banana crazy to put me in a room full of third graders. But put her in a group of college students and she'd just freak out. You see, people have different interests or aptitudes. But man, I really can't see that very well back there. I'm going to have to turn around and look at this with you guys. Young families, if y'all haven't interacted with some of the young families in the young families class, boy, you need to. They are an encouragement. They are a real shot in the arm. Some of them sitting right here, and some others too, right here. It makes you feel young to be involved with those folks, all right? It's just wonderful. Get involved. Have them over. Just do something with them. Prime timers, that's we old geezers, all right? And we like to go eat, we like to go do other things, but we also like to serve. There are things we can do. Can I put in a plug, Ed, for the Romeo Club, or Chris? And the ladies have the Juliets. It's not just fun eating together. It is, but that's not all there is to it. Wings, goodness, I couldn't even begin to describe all of the things the ladies are involved with Wings. So many areas where you can serve. Just jump in. Pick one. Try that. If you don't like that, try something else. Just get involved. Lads to leaders, Scott Miller leads us in a whole bunch of possibilities when that time comes around and gives us an opportunity. So that might be where you would like to serve. Missions. Trampus, I think, is dealing with missions. He would be an excellent contact point if you have an interest in missions. And even if you don't yet, you could get involved in various ways. And again, you might not like some of them. You might not have an aptitude for some of them. Try another one. Have you ever been successful at everything you tried? Anybody ever done that? So we've already admitted we have failed at some things we've tried. And we can admit that we don't get everything right, but we need to keep going, don't we? Can we agree to that? We need to keep going. Find an area to serve and serve with all your heart. Give it your best shot. The Lord gave us his all. We should do no less. All right? Any comments, questions. This has been a good class for me. Hope it's been beneficial to you. Randall, I know we've just enjoyed looking at these people. I like character studies and learning not just what those characters taught in words, but what they taught by their lives, by what they've done. We can learn a lot. Well, you've lost your chance now. The bell's over. So God bless you. Thank you so much for your involvement with this study this quarter and for this evening.